There's where the pipe come out to here.
I see.
Where the septic tank is.
This is where the septic tank is?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to collect some samples, if you don't mind.
Yeah, happy to.
Thank you.
Okay.
In 2017, scientists from Baylor College of Medicine published a study that caused a stir.
Like I said, a little bit of bad odor doesn't hurt me at all.
It demonstrated that a small sample of people in Lowndes County, Alabama, had hookworm, a parasitic infection normally found in developing countries, where people are exposed to raw sewage.
I'll mark it for here.
Now, the same researchers are performing a follow-up study to understand the link between the parasite and sanitation issues in rural Alabama.
Come around that side. Yeah.
Walter McMeans has lived in Alabama his whole life.
Is this raw sewage?
Yeah.
How long has it been like this?
Years.
Walter lives in an area of Alabama known as the Black Belt, a nickname which originally referred to both the racial makeup of the people living in the region and its dark clay-like soil. The ground doesn't absorb water well, so special septic tanks are required, which can run upwards of $10,000. Because of this, many opt for cheaper traditional septic tanks that fail.
Every time you use water, you're worried that the septic system might have some sort of failure.
I'm not worried about it. It does. And as the years pass, the problem get worse and worse. If we don't get something done about it, I don't know what you want to do. But no one should have to live like this. They be embarrassed by other people that come and they bring their children, that they come once and they see the situation that you have. They're not coming back, and I can't blame them. Because I wouldn't.
After sampling water and soil in Walter's backyard, Rogelio Mejia and his colleague Megan McKenna visited 2 other homes in Lowndes County. One used PVC piping to discharge raw sewage on the ground nearby.
What are the conditions that cause the environment in some areas to be prone to hookworm transmission?
Right. So the number one thing, besides the proper humidity, how does it go from the human to the soil? And that's improper sanitation.
What do you mean by improper sanitation?
So human waste.
Okay.
The people who are infected release eggs. Those eggs are part of the excrement.
Okay.
And if they end up on the ground and become the hookworm, the infectious hookworm, and then you step on them or walk by, and it goes into your skin and goes through the cycle. So it's a human to soil, soil to human infection.
Hookworm is a parasite that feeds on the blood of its host. When people have a lot of hookworms in their gut, the parasite can cause anemia and even limit children's ability to learn.
So one of the thoughts is, and especially in Alabama, that the myth of the slow-speaking sharecropper, usually African-American, there's some evidence that it was because of the hookworm burden.
Hookworm, or the germ of laziness as it's been called, was once widespread in the South. By around 1910, more than 7 million Southerners, both white and black, were infected, spurring a $1 million campaign to treat children in schools. As people moved to cities and sanitation improved in urban areas, hookworm became less of a focus, which is why there's very little information about its prevalence today. But many places in the rural South still struggle with sewage. In Lowndes County alone, where more than 70% of the population is black and 30% of residents live in poverty, close to a third of surveyed households say they've had sewage back up into their homes or pool in open areas. And that's just one of 13 counties in Alabama's Black Belt, where more than half of the soil isn't suited for a septic system, according to the EPA.
We found more than 30% of these at-risk populations had hookworm.
Were you surprised by the results of that study?
I was. It was shocking to me. Conditions I saw matched several conditions that I've seen in countries such as Honduras and Guatemala.
After the initial hookworm study was published, the Alabama Department of Public Health criticized it, stating that the study wasn't large enough. But many Lowndes County residents worry that talking to researchers about their issues with raw sewage could result in a fine. The Department of Health also stated that the CDC had failed to replicate the study's results. As the state medical officer, Dr. Scott Harris oversaw the response.
we have a study that reached, kind of startling conclusions and wasn't supported by any other evidence that we had. And so,
Of which there was very little because nobody was looking at hookworm in Alabama.
Yeah, right. But if a third of all those folks have hookworm, we think that would show up sometime in some way.
Do you think it's possible, hypothetically, some people have a low burden of hookworm and that your surveillance system might have missed that and that those hookworms might still be affecting their health, their overall health? Do you think that's possible?
I suppose that's possible, sure. But I guess the point that I feel like I really labor to make is whether or not people have hookworms, the problem is you have impoverished people that don't have adequate facilities. They don't have wastewater treatment.
Has there been an attempt to try and increase interventions within poorer communities in Alabama?
We've met with the governor's office on a couple of occasions, and ultimately it's about resources. If we were able to get, sort of community lagoon type systems, and for Lowndes County alone, the cost was about 9 figures, and that would have covered about 3/4 of the county. And that's only one county in the Black Belt, out of a dozen. And so it's a tremendous need for resources that we have. And the response right now has been really incremental and, frankly not adequate.
Walter says he's never had hookworm, but he still worries about the raw sewage in his yard. Rogelio and his team plan to take hundreds of additional samples throughout the Black Belt over the next year.
Is it hard to see this and to have to deal with this every day?
And this may seem weird or stupid, but actually you've gotten used to it. It's like a hard bean in a pen.
Right.
You get used to it.